I would have some consistent mental visualizations, especially because I was cutting weight. I would imagine I was in the forest and there was like a deer that had been freshly killed and I'm starving and I really want it. And then this other person emerges and we have to fight for the, like, it was like that level of feral.
Anyone that gathered the feral possum? Welcome to a special pre-Nogi Worlds edition of Jiu Jitsu Ponderings with David and
Lauren.
Sweet. This is before Nogi Worlds. We compete tomorrow. And so we thought we would do a few questions related to how we're feeling and what we're anticipating for tomorrow and our game plans and our preparation. So let's get in it. I have chamomile tea, by the way.
I've got some Breathe Deep, some interesting mix. I taste the licorice root, and that's probably my favorite part of this tea.
Does that have echinacea in it or something too?
Licorice think so. Root? I don't know. Yeah.
You like licorice root, but not licorice.
Yeah. Well, some licorice is fine. I don't like super licorice, you know.
Fair enough.
We gotta have some random rambling for the beginning of the episode. All right, and we're coming to you from our hotel room in Vegas, situated right near the Las Vegas Convention Center, so that we can easily have access to the tournament and such.
Quickly becoming one of our top places.
Yes.
We can literally walk to it in a few minutes, so it's nice.
Indeed. Excellent. Well, David, our first question is just, how are you feeling?
I am feeling pretty good. I'm a little bit tired. I feel like a little bit revving all engines, not necessarily like jiu-jitsu related, but just like working on the various different projects in my life and stuff. So that's been probably taking up some of my psychic energy. But I did get a good training camp leading up to it for about like 10 or 11 days. It was really solid training. I was training most every day and getting good rounds in. I felt very sharp. So from like a technique sharpness level, I feel really good. I taught like 2 seminars and a group lesson over the weekend and a private lesson on Monday. So that like detracted a little from my training, but I think it was pretty good anyway. It was really nice to be able to teach. And I think that sometimes that really solidifies my application of my game. A couple things that are like bugging me, like, you know, injury wise, but nothing that I think is going to inhibit my ability to compete at all. So overall, I feel very good.
How's your weight?
My weight, I had to cut a few pounds, should be pretty mellow. I've just been maintaining today and I'll get within striking distance. I'll probably just float it overnight. And if I need to wake up in the morning and cut, then so be it. But yeah, feel pretty good.
Nice.
Feel pretty confident that I'll be able to have a pretty good showing in a tough bracket.
Nice.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good as well. Yeah. I think the same thing where it often feels like a marathon leading up to this tournament of just like work and life and holidays. And so there is something really nice about arriving here and letting go of most things that are outside of getting ready for the tournament. Might be a couple little things to check in on, but it feels almost like a breath of fresh air, you know? And we get to just see a lot of people that were, you know, are nice to see again. And so that part's really cool. So that feels really good to finally be like, okay, I'm here. Anything else that I'm worried about in life is set to the side for the moment. So that feels good. My weight is great. And so it's mostly just keeping myself fed, which is a place I always like to be in. I felt like my camp leading up to this was good. You know, there's a few things that maybe, you know, it would have been nice to do a little more of this or that. But otherwise, like, I got a lot of training in the last like few weeks, you know, and so and then just rested leading up to coming here like since Monday. So so that was really nice.
On resting
and we're not sick. We're not sick.
Yeah. I had a scare.
It felt like it was getting close.
Yeah, it felt like at the beginning of this week I was sick or getting sick, but like yesterday and today I feel pretty good. So I'm hopeful that was just either a mild one or I just was talking too much and being dehydrated or whatever over the weekend. I want to like touch on a point that you made real quick. The like setting things off to the side and whatnot. I think it's one of the reasons why I do like to compete. It's like one of a couple things, but it's one of the few areas where I give myself like full, not even like permission, but like I mandate myself to like push everything off to the side and like let everything else go. And so, yeah, things will creep in a little bit, but it is really nice where I'm like, all that other stuff can pause for a day or two. Your focus is on like competing and like getting yourself into the mental state for competition. So like, I really appreciate that like overarching like idea. So
nice. What are some secret weapons that help you compete? These aren't literally secret weapons, but they're kind of secret weapons in they're maybe not the first things that you would think of, you know, in getting ready for a tournament, and they're not so obscure that they're like crazy. So first of all, I would love to just share one of mine before I forget it, which is that when I noticed this started just kind of organically a long time ago, when I get ready to go to a tournament, at whatever point that I'm traveling there, once I've arrived, I don't go on Instagram at all. And so I think that's both a neurological reset of some kind, you know, I'm kind of like building back up my dopamine, especially when we have a few days. And I'm trying to avoid some of the stressors of being on there, because if I see people doing jiu-jitsu on Instagram, it can make me think of it a little bit differently, you know, especially when I'm about to compete. It goes from being like, oh, that move's kind of interesting. Oh, wow, that was really cool, to something more anxious. And it keeps me away from like news and chaos and just like the stress that comes with being on social media.
Digital detox.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like that's one secret weapon, is just not going on social media for especially the, 24, 48 hours leading up to competing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I noticed that I reduce the amount I do, but I still do go on social media. I feel like in general, I'm a little less impacted, but I do think it's a great idea.
I'll go on Reddit a little bit just to like, if I'm awake in the morning and I want to like read something, if I need to take my mind off of things. But even that, like,
Reddit sometimes is like worse.
So yeah, totally. Sometimes it's that I'm reading instead of like, instead of the aimless like scrolling kind of thing, sort of, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Another one is definitely the buying jars of bone broth. I don't like the cartons for some reason. It kind of makes my stomach feel funny. But specific jarred bone broth. Every time, no affiliation, but if they ever want to sponsor, I'm here. Epic Bone Broth. I just get their jar of chicken broth, I'll have at least one of those per day. And it's very important for me to have. And I feel like it helps me keep from getting sick. I know that it's just got extra nutrients. It's like having a super liquid. And because I don't cut, I don't need to worry about, okay, I can only have this much water or not be drinking water or whatever. So I feel like the bone broth really helps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. What are some secret weapons that you feel help you compete?
I mean, the mullet is like the top answer.
Yes.
Because like, let's be real.
Yeah.
I think this kind of goes a little bit to like one of the questions that goes on later, and it's like my ability to activate. Mm-hmm. Like I have honed and figured out the way to maximize my ability to what I call activate in a match and like produce hopefully as good a content that I can, or like, like jujitsu. And like briefly high level, I think I'm going to go into this like much more in depth future time. It's like today. It's the day before, there's things that I'm doing. There's the day of in the morning that I'm doing. There's the bullpen and everything else like that. A lot of it's like I'm talking to myself in a particular way. I'm listening to maybe some of the music, and I'm trying to get into, I wouldn't call it a Zen state necessarily, but I'm trying to get into like a focused state where I'm both confident and where like I'm like repeating several mantras to myself, things along the lines of like, this is like my time, this is my bracket, and I have a few things that I repeat like while I'm going up to the mat. But I figured out what is my internal dialogue, the state of energetic excitement that I need to be at, and like how to talk to myself to activate well. And then like my game is pretty conducive to that as well. So I think that's one of my secret weapons. I make sure, like everyone should, like make sure like they have what they need as far as snacks or at least water.
It is funny because even though we're like, yeah, of course, like make sure you have the things you need. It does seem like there are a lot of athletes where it's the day of and they're like, hey, I don't have enough water. Like, do you have any? You know? And
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
No,
even though it
yeah.
sounds simple, if you need it, make your checklist and go buy all your stuff, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like do what like almost every jiu-jitsu athlete does and go to Whole Foods the day before, or if you're later in the day of or whatever, and like make sure you like figure out what you need, whether it's you have your like, you know, your bananas or your like applesauce or whatever. For me, I like to have caffeine in the form of yerba mate tea because it's not going to upset my stomach. And I make sure I have a lot of it, probably way too much. And then I have one or two forms of an energy like powder like thing. I use UCAN, which you can sponsor me. And it's either a powder that you mix in with water and you drink. You don't have to digest it. It just gives you like glycogen, like right, you know, as quickly as like your small or large, whichever intestine like absorbs and puts into your stream. And then there's also this gel that's the same idea. That's really helpful. I don't really eat the day of, even if I'm competing late at night. Like I really don't eat very much at all. So it's like pseudo fasted, but I make sure I have those kinds of those kinds of carbs in my system that help me activate real well. So I think like those two things are probably like the quick hitters of like, you know, not super obscure, but also not like just so mainstream.
It can be obscure if there's an obscure thing you do.
No, I don't have like too many rituals. I try to make sure, like for a long time when I was competing, I made sure that I can compete without headphones beforehand. I made sure I can compete, like I'd almost sometimes like artificially restrict the things that I was, because I was like, if those aren't there, I don't want to freak out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I proved to myself, like somewhat to my detriment, I think at times, I proved to myself that I didn't need it. And so now I try to cultivate a checklist, like you're saying, of the things that I need, like my headphones fully charged and like, you know, the right drinks and, you know, whatever it is that I need leading up to it to be ready. And so I try not to do anything that's too obscure, that's hard to get or whatnot as you're traveling, especially. And so, but I do have like those certain things, and I'm ready to accept if I don't have those for whatever reason.
Yep. All right. Third question.
What have you done today to support your performance for tomorrow besides drinking bone broth?
Besides drinking bone broth, I think hot tubbing always helps. That's it's not a secret weapon because a lot of people like to have the hot tub accessible, but I think we do a little extra legwork to prioritize having a hot tub accessible. Hot tub is awesome. And if not hot tub, like bath. I think just staying relaxed, you know, making sure that we sleep in, that there's no, you know, big to-dos or something. We already have our food.
It is nice. We came in Wednesday. We compete on Friday, which is tomorrow. It is nice on some level having that full day.
Yeah.
Because we often will, I mean, just depends on scheduling, so that we'll often come in the day before, get our stuff, you know, but then like we're competing the next day. So sometimes like having that extra day, like there's trade-offs, of course, but it is nice.
Yeah. I think for optimizing for competition, it's a little bit preferred, but it's just like life, like it's an extra day of dog sitter, it's an extra day of like making sure they're paying for everything. Yeah, exactly. So I think today it's mostly the big focus is on nutrition, like making sure I'm fed and hydrated and everything, and restful, active recovery, you know, like doing a little bit of stretching, getting in the hot tub, walking around and enjoying ourselves a little bit. Getting lattes is always very important the day before, assuming you don't have to cut. So we did that. And just like really taking it easy. Yeah. What about you?
I think very similar and kind of like what we were talking about before of like, setting things off into the back burner for a little while, and being okay with saying, hey, this isn't going to get done today
Yeah.
or tomorrow. And that's okay, and that's encouraged. It's like, this is, I think, this is a time to be selfish, or
Yeah.
better, self-interested,
Yes.
and not worrying about like what productivity I'm doing with like various different things. So like chilling, like sleeping in, like you're saying. I even before this, I like meditated for a little bit. As much as my meditation is listen to hardcore techno. That's how I quiet my mind. That should tell you a lot about me. But like that's like just trying to be mellow and chill.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a concern about your preparedness, how do you stay confident going into your matches?
Okay. Well, do you have a concern about your preparedness?
I think it's normal that concerns will come up, Like for me, hey, I didn't do a lot of the conditioning that I was hoping to do. And I think when any of those concerns come up, you want a couple tools to deal with them. And so one is the reframe of just like, oh, I'm feeling nervous. Nervous is normal. Or nervous means I'm ready. So, flipping it on its head.
I like the nervous and excited are the same thing. So you could just say, I'm excited.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Like physiologically, they're the same.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's great. And then I think the other thing, one other tool is drawing on your trust of someone else that you consider an expert, or that you just generally trust, so that even if you are having trouble believing in yourself, you're saying, well, they believe in me, so that it must be true. And so I had one round with Laith, a good friend of mine, who's also a black belt and longtime competitor. And I think after the round I had mentioned that I was a little concerned about my cardio, and he's like, dude, your cardio felt great. Like you were keeping up in the scrambles and pushing the pace. Like you were never like falling behind. You weren't breathing heavy. Like you seem good. And I'm like, hey, that person knows what that looks like, and I can trust their opinion. And so even if I'm like, oh, what if I, it helps save you from going down that path of like,
totally,
of the negative self-talk starting to take over. So I think that is, that's a couple ways that I would maybe deal with those concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I also probably did not get, I know I did not get as much conditioning as I would have liked.
I think we trained a lot, but this is, I think,
I would have liked to start it earlier. I had like a good little over a week and a half where I trained real well, like trained hard. I even did a double day. And I felt really good. Some of the sessions I felt kind of washed, but like I still was executing well, even if I felt like, oh my God. So I definitely ramped up my cardio nicely, and I felt pretty good, especially the last few days and stuff. But I definitely underdid the cardio. So I think if I were to have any concerns, it'd be around like, my energetic threshold, like how much cardio I have. But you could just solve that by submitting people quick.
There you go.
That's one thing. The other is like, I've competed so many times compromised between like my autoimmune disease and like being sick or hurt or whatever. And I can just compete so much that I trust in my ability to draw upon my ability to activate and put what I can out there and remind myself that my self-worth is not dictated by the outcome of one tournament. Of course I want to win, but I only can control so much. So I try to, as much as I can, focus on the things that I can control. And then the rest is like, well, we'll see if we can overcome it. And so I think that from that perspective, I feel ready and prepared, and I feel confident. Would I feel a little bit more so if I had, done what I would have wanted to do to get, at least, especially the cardiovascular component? I'd feel probably a little bit more so, but it is what it is. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go up against great competitors, and hopefully I find the way to victory. And if not, then like the journey continues. I'll take what I can from it, and then not overemphasize anything, and Same thing if I win or do well, and move on to the next thing.
David,
Lauren.
what are a few tools that you use to help you activate for your matches?
I'll keep this brief because I already kind of touched up on it, but I think that, finding, I call it the energetic activation level that I need to be at the different times before you go to the venue, and you're at the venue, you're in the bullpen, you're leading up to the mat, and then right before, everyone's going to have a dial. Like, it's really like one area is really low and the other area is really high, and your optimal level is somewhere in between. And that optimal level changes in different areas. I think that a lot of people are suboptimally in an energetic state that is not ideal. You're overly excited, and so you're burning a lot of psychic energy that actually makes you tired, or you're too relaxed. And by the time you need to be at, like, I need to get going, it's hard to bridge that gap from being called up and walking to them. And so I'm trying to be at the right energetic level for the context. And so for leading, like before, I'm trying to be as mellow as possible before I go to the venue, because there's no reason to be amped up at all. Before I go to the bullpen, when I'm doing like my pseudo warm up, I don't do a big warm up. I get myself mentally ready, and I still want to be very, very calm. And then when I'm in the bullpen, I'm at like what level I feel like is optimal, which is like active, engaged, focused, and ready, but not high energy. And then when I'm walking from the bullpen to the mat, I'm ramping that up. I'm hyper focusing. I'm repeating my mantras. Everything else doesn't matter, but like this match that I'm getting at too. That's the main thing that I really want to focus on, is like, what mental state, what self-talk, and what energy levels do I want to be at every point along the path to getting on the mat and hearing the words combust.
Nice. This is really interesting, because I think that I have essentially the same goal of controlling energy level and controlling my mental state. But the methods that I would point out, that I would highlight, are different, in that I would highlight the like warm up itself is, for me, a slow warm up, and in it, it's usually where I'll find my mind wandering to these different places, and where I'll start to hone in on my self-talk and how I'm motivating myself. Because especially in becoming a master's athlete, it's become so different, where in my early 20s, I had my list of, kind of mantras or things that I would say to myself, and they stuck. They were pretty consistent. And I would have some consistent mental visualizations, especially because I was cutting weight, and be like, oh, I would imagine I was in the forest and there was like a deer that had been freshly killed, and I'm starving and I really want it. And then this other person emerges and we have to fight for the, like, it was like that level of feral, yeah.
Anyone that gathered the feral possum?
Yeah. Yes. Like a feral badger or something. I don't know. But anyway, and so whereas as a master's athlete, it feels more like I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to want or need to kind of tell myself, or how I'm going to get into that mood. But in doing my warm up, I think that physically getting ready, it starts to prime me mentally, and it kind of comes out. Like sometimes, at Master Worlds, like a song came on that I actually hadn't heard before, and I was like, "Oh, this is like really good." It was this kind of, it was like this ethereal but kind of metal, like Viking music. So there's like this woman's like beautiful voice, but there are these really nice, like deep, like guitar sounds behind it and stuff. And that was like, I was like, oh, this is okay. This is it. This is what I'm honing into. And that can be a little scary for me, because I usually prefer to have a more rigid routine, but I think I've had to kind of accept, like, hey, you're not necessarily going to know exactly what you need, but it's more about getting in tune with your body in that moment. And I think that's the big thing that for us, like you were saying, competing solo or without all the things you need or whatever, really has helped each of us learn to be in tune with what we're needing in that moment.
Yeah.
And that'll leave me. So my physical prep of warming up, like starting with, active stretching.
Which I suggest people do.
Yeah, but you don't do that much.
I kind of don't do that much, but I'm a little bit weird and I understand that. But like, if I were to give like blanket suggestions, like getting a good warm up, even to the point where it feels like you got your first match out of the way, that's like kind of the intensity level you get to. That is great. I used to do that in wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of validity to it as a default suggestion to everyone. And then like you do that and then you grow out of it potentially, or you realize that's not actually what I want.
Yeah.
Most people that I know that don't do that probably would benefit a lot from it.
Yeah.
And so like I want to like applaud you and like say, yes, that is my suggestion for most people.
Yeah. And I've noticed that I prefer doing it in the hotel room before going over, because like the warm-up mats are crowded. It's like a big scene.
If they even have warm-up mats.
That often, they don't have them at like the smaller tournaments and stuff. And so in that I do, and I like the privacy of the hotel room, and I can play some music, because like I often just like don't bring headphones for whatever weird reason. I don't know. I don't like having headphones on at the venue, because I'm worried they're gonna call my name and I'm not gonna hear them. And music tends to take me away from the present moment rather than like put me in it.
I'm too much like check bracket.
You're so
like
on it.
I'm like so
exactly.
on it. So I don't have to worry about getting lost in
that.
In
that zone. So the warm up is a big thing, and it is like you're saying. It's like, it used to be very rigid, and now it's like we've been doing it for so long that it can be this kind of like, my goal is to just move every part of my body and make sure that it's all primed.
I think when it's
from like toes to head kind of thing.
I think when it's probably like your mental state as well is your end goal, and you've done it so much that you know that there are many ways to get to that end goal, and it's just like what inspires you to get to that end goal will differ, but you're still getting to that end goal of like physical and mental preparedness.
Yeah, and in case that's not helpful, where you're like, cool, you figured it out or whatever, I think that that's from experimenting at a lot of different tournaments with, do I want to be really high energy? Do I want to be really relaxed? Do I want to be really serious? Do I want to be kind of jovial, and finding what worked well and felt true for me. Yeah. I remember asking somebody, because like if you watch the Olympics, like you're watching gymnastics, they're not warming up on screen like ever.
No.
And they don't really show that, but like those athletes have already warmed up.
Yep.
That's why they're sitting there hanging out in the chair. But I think that gives us kind of a false like sense of what the process is for them to get prepared to do all of the insane things that they do.
And just a reminder again, it's like your goal through jiu-jitsu and period, but in competition is to find what you need and find what helps you out. And you glom onto other people's ideologies or like suggestions or whatnot as a starting point. But that's not,
you're trying on all the hats.
You're trying on the hats. You're trying, I don't really like that analogy, but anyway, I get it. Okay. And so we'll go with it. But
What, you want them to try on a cloak instead or something?
No, it's because it's like,
I put on my robe and wizard hat.
No. To me, it's less like this hat's gonna fit or this hat's gonna fit. It's like it's almost like you're building like a Lego animal or whatever, and you're taking some Lego blocks from this thought or process, and you're taking some over from here, and you're creating your own new Lego animal or Lego builder, whatever it is, and that's your shrine of preparedness or whatever silly analogy I'm going with. But like, I think it's like taking bits and pieces of what works for you. There's just aspects that I try to like make my own, but I've competed for so long. And I've tested so many times that you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, totally. The other thing that I'll mention is breath work, which I think is really key in that it's a huge part of regulating your nervous system and your energetic state. And so if I notice that I'm getting a little too amped, like even when you're just talking about it, I'll feel my heart start to beat a little faster. I'll feel like kind of a tightness in my chest and stuff. And I'll feel that readiness
Alertness,
to you're
yeah.
entering your fight or flight parasympathetic state or whatever. And so I'm using breath to potentially mellow that out a little
What
bit.
would that
or
look like,
I'll
breath
do like a
work?
big like that's my like
a
okay,
big
chilling.
slowing down.
Inhale through the
and that's
nose.
great.
Out,
I'm
exhale
glad you
through the
brought that
mouth.
up of like how to manage your energetic
Yeah.
state. And sometimes it's like what you're thinking and what you're telling yourself. But that's great. That's like a
Yeah.
physiological thing. If you want to get nerdy, the longer you exhale in relation to your inhale, the more calming it is and the more lowering of your heart rate. So if you want to breathing wise hack, so to speak, your heart rate, you have a longer inhale to exhale.
Interesting.
To elevate your heart rate. You have a longer exhale to inhale if you want to lower your heart rate.
Interesting.
And from my, I'm going to get this wrong, so don't flame me, but from my understanding, a portion of like the Iceman's breathing techniques is to like elevate your heart rate and bring in a lot of oxygen. What I like to do, like when I'm doing a body scan or I'm trying to mellow out, which I'm glad you said that, is like I try to make a 1 second inhale and like a 3 second exhale.
Yeah.
And like nice, slow, long, drawn out, and like but for like 3 full seconds.
Oh, interesting. So I think there's that style of breath, and then there's the like get myself in like the combat readiness kind of thing, which is an interesting breath. I learned it from a therapist that I was talking to several years ago, and she shared it with me, and she was like, Lauren, I don't know how to say this other than the person that I learned this from is the closest thing to a real life witch than I've ever met. And it was something with during her birth, this woman taught her this breathing style. Maybe that was actually the dragon breath. I don't remember. And when she shared it with me, it was really cool. It was very powerful to do. And some of these things might seem silly. And I think if you let yourself be like, okay, this seems a little silly, but I'm still going to try it and see if it's helpful, you know? And so when I'm getting ready to like, especially right before the match, like I'm standing at the side of the mat and I'm getting ready, there's more of this like, and I'll make a face too, you know, make my scary face or whatever. And I'll start moving a little bit and I'll do that a bunch. And I'll have, the other piece is like where your eyes are, your focus. I feel like having the 1,000-yard stare is really helpful.
Yeah. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
That's
super helpful.
That's very interesting. I didn't know you do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah. And so that way I'm not getting distracted by the details of like the people in the stands or what's happening on the mat or whatever. I might like watch the match that's before me a little bit or whatever and just kind of be like observing, but especially when I'm wanting to use that breath to get focused and get ready for murder, you know, then I'm doing a lot of that and I'm just kind of staring at like an angle, like sort of generally to the ground, you know?
I do very similar.
Yeah.
I do like, if anyone watches me warm up, they can like, I imagine it's amusing on the exterior.
Yeah.
Because I do like, I'm in my head, I'm doing my mantras, and like, I do this thing where it's like almost like, I don't know, like a roar or whatever, like with my mouth. It's like, if anyone's seen me like warm up.
I've copied that. I've stolen that a little bit from you. I think it's any of the things that you're doing with your body, even if your mind doesn't, even if you emotionally don't feel the most ready, it all helps. There's enough research behind the power stances,
the power poses,
the breathing, like the mantras, like all of it will help you.
You can override your physiology.
Yes, yeah.
With certain ways. And that's like, it's important, it's powerful.
Yeah,
you know?
Yep. So yeah, I think to summarize, it was like warm up, breath, 1,000-yard stare, yes.
And growl like a lion.
And growl like a lion or whatever
like
creature. Yeah, or like a Hyrax or whatever. Yeah. What's your game plan going in?
My game plan going in is I'm not going to make any major adjustments. You know, my game's always evolving, I think. Maybe not always, but it's often evolving. And so there's like some adjustments that I'm making and whatnot, but it's still going to be like similar ideas to always.
You're gonna
It's,
sit and
I'm
you're
going to
gonna see
sit.
what you can entangle.
I'm going to sit. I'm going to go for, K guard, keymaster, or half. And I have like strategies from there and stuff. And I'll be more willing to open up with takedowns if needed. And then I've been building a little bit of a game against like people scout my game nowadays. I've noticed, and like they come like kind of prepared. Certain types of people. Sometimes still doesn't matter, but there's some people that can like lock down my game a little bit better. So I've been working on some strategies towards that.
What's one strategy?
So you'll probably see, we'll see if it comes out, but you'll see a new grip configuration in half guards. I'm calling it the reverse grip.
Oh yeah.
This is against people that do like kind of anti jiu-jitsu or like don't engage with me.
Yeah.
And so I've been working this reverse grip, which will help limit some of like the smash passing or like weave passing and stuff. But it also opens up a shallow underhook on the left-hand side. And that has a whole blueprint from there that I've been developing. But a lot of it is to get to a shoulder crunch or to get extracted into a seated up with a shallow underhook. And I'm like kicking out the far leg and dropping into Choi bar, straight arm bars, or like a couple other things. There's also a really cool sweep from there. So if I come up and they start coming in, like trying to body lock past me or whatever, I have this like, I don't know, this stupid called like unstoppable sweep from there. So I think one technique or like sort of a technique, but it's more like a slightly conceptual change is a reverse grip from half and most likely to a shallow underhook on that like my left hand side, their right hand side. And there's a lot I've been doing it from there, and I've been enjoying having a more fleshed out upper left quadrant attack because my upper right and lower right, because I use my half guard on their right side, so I'm attacking their left side, which is my right side. Confusing, I know, but I want to be able to attack all three quadrants effectively, and I do okay. But now this is giving me even more so because I'm not a big come underhook and dogfight type of a game,
Yep. Nice.
What about you? What is your game plan for tomorrow?
I think it's
anything new.
I think that for the most, it's very similar to yours in that it's still, hey, do the things that I'm good at, try to pull and go to K-guard or De La Hiva. Not similar to you, because, De La Hiva. But
I don't do De La Hiva like you guys do.
I know, it's so funny.
I do a shallow, lazy De La Hiva, which I have a lot of game from, but I don't want to detract from your answer.
But pull guard to K-guard or De La Hiva, ideally. And then I think in terms of new things that might come out, similarly, I've been working a lot on just coming up for sweeps, and so that might be kind of a like feel out what they're doing and where it needs to happen and being open to coming up, even if it's into single leg X or things like that. The other thing that would be really sick is, like you're saying, my way of now attacking the left quadrant, because people are so locked down on the right quadrant from half guard and from K guard, is either the albatross armbar or looking for the omoplata is probably a little bit more likely.
Yep.
If the other thing I would prefer it not happen because it's kind of the Hail Mary, but if people are good about deleting my K-guard hook by hipping in, going to reverse half guard is something that I've been kind of like mentally toying around with. Reverse close guard. Thank you. Going to reverse close guard. There we go. And using that foot exposure to try to attack the feet a little bit or just like recover from there would be pretty sick. But yeah, I'd like some submissions. I'd like some, it is funny.
You're gonna see knee bar.
You're gonna see knee bar? Yeah, that's your prediction?
From you.
From me? From both of us. Knee bars?
K-guard to knee bar.
I hope so. It sounds awesome. First. K-guard to knee bar.
I mean, you'll probably have at least an ankle lock or two.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yep. Yeah. I'd like, especially because were in masters. So if I end up in 50-50, I would like to get that ankle lock from the same side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
The
nice.
same side?
Or I don't know what you call it. What's the inside?
I
don't, not just the outside, the one.
That's more like Woj lock style.
Is it?
Well, you can show me later, but yeah, it probably is.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't like attacking the near side ankle.
It was hard, but once I was training with Jaine, and she hit it on me at one point, and I was like, oh, and it really was involving like angling off. And I think having
that makes sense,
when you're coaching me through ankle locks and emphasizing times when I need to hip in or just those little details, it really helps. So
Sweet.
I think that'll finalize it.
We're gonna get them.
I'm gonna get him.
You're gonna get them. So on that note, this is part 1 of a special part 2 episode. We're gonna film after and hopefully share some good news or some good takeaways, but also just be a little bit like real about analyzing how things went and whether good, ugly, or bad or whatnot. We'll explore that and hopefully that's helpful for you guys.
Yeah.
And gals and cats and dogs out there. Well, on that note, we'll see you immediately after this for part 2, but we'll see you later.
See you in 5 seconds.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
This is part 2 of a special Nogi Worlds competition episode. We are back home.
In case you couldn't tell.
As you can see.
Returned to the nest.
Back to the nest.
Okay, so Nogi Worlds has occurred.
Like a spider nest or like a squirrel nest?
It's a squirrel nest, I think.
Oh, that's like one that has like a fur. It's all snuggly.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of fur everywhere.
Yes.
And random detritus and such.
Yep.
Okay, so we're doing a post-tournament check-in. Nogi Worlds has occurred. And we'll start off by just let's give the play-by-play of what happened. What were your results, David?
My results were
I won my first match by submission pretty quick. I was able to get into my system and I was able to get a Woj lock, which is nice. I don't usually go into 50-50, but you gotta take what you can get. And then my second match was the quarterfinals. And I went up against someone that was really solid, had a game plan to get into a specific toe hold setup that he was able to get to me pretty quick. He beat me to the sit, which is not that common. But he was able to get it pretty well, and I had to like roll out of bounds to prevent getting submitted. And so when we came back in bounds, we both sat and we were like pummeling and trying to get stuff. And he was just very strong, was able to funnel to his game really well. And between like my defense and then at one point, like I went to start also attacking and going into a little bit of a shootout. And he had a really, really good response that kind of shut me out and then like furthered his attack. So, you know, sometimes you take the L, and I'll try to take what lessons from that are useful and take the disappointment and whatnot from there. But those are the results. 1-1 and no medal this time.
Yep. I had a similar experience. I had to buy my first round, and I was watching my future opponents, and I saw the woman who was playing on bottom looked really sharp and was playing a game very similar to what I wanted to do. She was playing K-Guard, she was playing De La Hiva, and, you know, looking very submission oriented. And I was like, that's my game. And she looked really sharp. I was like, this is going to be really tough. And the person on top looked good too. They had good defenses and such, but they didn't quite. It was clear like person on bottom was gonna be successful, and so I went in there and we had an initial sit battle, And she was both defensive with her feet and very sharp on what her attacks were. So 30 seconds passed, we were stood up again. And then she pulled and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna try to pass and I'm gonna try to stay outside." And she was very good at keeping me from getting to my positions. Like I remember at one point I wanted to try to slow things down and step over to half guard, and she pulled her foot out from bottom half guard right away. Like I could not find like solid footing. And it just felt very chaotic and very scrambly for the next, I don't know how much time passed. I haven't watched the footage yet. I'm giving myself a little break until then. We had a few exchanges. I got like a little close on a knee crunch, but there were some adjustments that I needed to make that just like weren't quite there. And eventually she got me also with a toe hold. So I went 0-1 at this one. And yeah, and stuff sucks. Well, yeah. She was really good. She was really sharp. And she was good at keeping me from getting to the places where I wanted to be and like making her game happen. And yeah, so we've talked about our results. Not great. Sometimes that's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So now we can talk a little bit. How are you feeling? And how are you dealing with the feelings around not getting the outcome that you were hoping for?
Losing sucks. I think losing with high expectations, sucks. On some level, it's not as bad as it could be because if we
walked out of there,
yeah, more or less. I feel like if I lose when I feel like I probably shouldn't, not necessarily like in general, because like, hey, you're always competing. It's always a toss up for the most part. But it wasn't like I made horrible tactical errors or just like had crappy cardio and that was the difference and whatnot. Like this guy was able to get to his game quite successfully. I have a few tactical things to work on defense, because even like my defense for toe holds is fairly good, and I was implementing like the standard defense of like keeping my legs straight and maneuvering my positioning and stuff like that. He's just really strong and like I think likes finishing from that position, and so he made a couple adjustments that are really good. So it's kind of like a little bit of, man, I just got caught. I think there's some tactical things to take away from it. I think some of the things around, like, he was very aggressive, very proactive about getting to where he wanted, and very, very strong. And so I think every once in a while I run into that, and so most of the time, like, I deal with it. But sometimes, especially if I'm seeing a little bit of a different look, I might have a little bit of challenge with it. So that's like a little bit of frustrating, because I've competed so much and I still will run into things that I don't have a very good answer to. I'm feeling like a little down on myself, not necessarily like super upset, but a little frustrated, a little disappointed. It was really nice to get the season award. I got number 2 ranked overall for Master 2 Black Belt in Nogi, which is like awesome. I'm like super proud of that accomplishment. Some of it's doing a decent amount of tournaments, but I also didn't do that many this year. But I did make them work really well for the most part. All of my opens I double golded in Nogi, which was really nice, and the double silver at Nogi Pans was helpful for that. So I'm very proud of that, but it does feel a little bit weird, even though I know like that is a consistency and a on the year award, but it does feel a little bit weird not getting a medal at Nogi Worlds, and that's about like that day. And that day I got caught and I wasn't the best in my bracket. So a little bit dampened from that, but I don't know. I feel like fine. The main concern is like psyche wise, like I'll bounce back. I'm really good at just, moving on to the next thing and whatnot. Memory. Yeah. And the main thing I'm a little bit concerned about is my knee. The toe hold was on my ankle, like, most toe holds, but it also traveled up to my knee. The ankle it's fine. It'll be sore for a few days. But even coming up, like I alluded to it earlier, when I was like, oh, there's a couple things that are like a little bit banged up and whatnot. And my knee had been bothering me. It didn't impact my competition at all. But it definitely hurts a lot. I'm a little bit concerned that my meniscus tear might need to eventually get more. But I'll be doing PT and looking to get back into training.
And luckily, even if you do, that's like a relatively speaking fairly mellow surgery. You know, like quick recovery time.
It should be
and
like a trim. Where the tear is located and everything else like that. It shouldn't be like what you had to deal with or with what one of our friends is probably gonna have to deal with pretty soon here. So it's it's one of those things where you just kind of say this sucks.
Yep.
And what actually is needing to be taken away from this?
We'll get into kind of like your actual takeaways and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think that when something like this happens, I try to give myself room for the next like 12 to 24 hours to like feel my feelings and be bummed and be upset. And like, and it's funny I turn kind of to you as my outlet to let myself express some of the brief like self-hatred that I'll experience, and it's like I need to like release the valve on it a little bit. Otherwise it sits and it just stews in me, and it's less like how you respond and more that I need to like say to someone some of the negative self-talk that I'm having, and that way it's like I'm letting it go, and just giving myself permission to like feel that way for for that period of time, and knowing that like, hey, this feeling will pass, it might not pass right away, but like it's okay. And I think it's one of the cool things about like learning about psychology and stuff like that through various readings that we've done is that most of your feelings most of the time are very temporary. Initially I was really upset. I was really bummed, and it was like definitely like entering the dark place of like really being down on myself. And so I'd slowly kind of drip feed some of that to you, and you're of course like, that's so dumb. Of course you're not the worst, or like feeling like, oh, I don't deserve to like go enjoy myself now. I think that's a very normal reaction too, is like you lose and then you want to like punish yourself somehow, or try to like PR as much as you can in a squat, or like have a bunch of hard rounds where you're just like, getting beat up or something like that. And you'll get through those feelings. And there is, I think for me, one other aspect that I'm tangenting to is I do like to train as long as I'm healthy, like pretty soon after I compete. Not to do that because that would be a like, oh, I gotta like cry in the bathroom every other time I'm rolling or something like that. But it's more to just like, it's like a return to the normalcy of the routine and the safety of like the training is my happy place, even if I'm not literally happy in that moment, this is where I want to be. It's where you're
gonna get regulated.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's where I'm going to get regulated. That's a great way to put it. So I think to summarize, it's like, let myself be in that space for a little bit and be bummed, and just slowly let myself come out of it too, and get some food and everything. And I think it's funny how it's not necessarily easy to continue to like hold on to the negative feelings, and you start to work through the takeaways. I think that's something that you and I both do pretty well, and it's part of why we continue to compete so much and put ourselves out there so much where we might lose and where we might have like a tough battle, is that when that happens, we're very action oriented, and we say, what are my takeaways from that? Like, what can I do? What's in my control that I can steer my focus and my emotions and things too. So
yeah, that's something like I've gotten better at over time too, because
I think in the past you wouldn't, for better and worse, you wouldn't really index on losses at all, you know? And I think that was good in that it wasn't, you're just like, whatever, like on to the next one. And you're not necessarily getting some of the opportunities of the
Yes.
learnings from it.
I think early on when I was like wrestling, I took losses really hard and I was very self-flagellate, or like what is
Yeah.
like I would like do that. And to your point, for a long time, it was like win or lose, I'm not really reflecting. Like I'm just like very much
Trust
next
me.
one up, next one up. You know, I might maybe watch a win or a loss once, maybe, probably not even like enough to like post it if I was going to. It's very much like on to the next one. Like that's in the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of time that probably was very psychically healthy.
Yeah.
And helped me to like just keep competing, especially when I was competing so much.
Yeah.
Like my 1 year I competed 22 times between tournaments and super fights. And if it was an open where I did gi and no gi and open absolutes and stuff like that, that was all one. So it's 22 distinct events.
Yeah.
Over 1 year. And so like you can't ruminate on things.
Yeah.
Like you just can't. But now lately, I don't know when the switch happened, but I've been trying to be reflective. And I've said this, I think in this podcast, but like I say this quite a bit, it's like what actually can be taken from this.
Yeah.
It's like not over indexing on losses, not under indexing on wins, but like where are there actually things that are useful from here? And then move on, you know, on to the next.
Yeah. With your plan.
Yeah.
So what are your main takeaways?
I felt like I didn't manage my cut as well as I probably should have. It ended up being that I cut in the morning and I was like kind of lackadaisical with it a little bit. Like I just went into the hot tub and there was someone there. I was just kind of wrapping out and stuff like that. I probably should have like managed it a little bit earlier. Like the day before, and that way like I will hopefully weigh in or wake up like underweight so I can have at least caffeine and whatnot. Here comes Kitty. And I just got over to the venue a little bit later than I would have liked. I didn't do as much or what I would have liked to do. Even outside of like warming up and getting none of that. It's like my normal stuff. I didn't quite set myself into the mood as much as I might have liked. It wasn't bad by any stretch, but it was a little truncated, a little bit shorter than I would have liked. And I didn't quite get in like the fire going. So
do you feel like you needed to physically warm up more, like listen to some music more, like, or just you needed kind of more time to like?
I think I need a little bit more, like physically warming up a little bit. I might toy around with like getting like a little bit more of a sweat going and whatnot. I'm not necessarily that convinced that that's needed. I think mostly like the last thing, I need a little bit more time to get like oriented, get locked in. And so I think I did myself a little bit of disservice. I don't know that impacted things that much.
You did win your first match.
I did win my first match. He seemed kind of ready for what I had, but like I was able to overwhelm it and get to where I'm comfortable.
Did you feel like that still didn't quite? Sometimes for me, I feel like the first match kind of wakes me up, you know?
A little bit. Like, no, I don't feel like I was like disoriented or not prepared at all. I think there's like on the margins that could have been a little bit better. There is a thread where it happens occasionally that if someone's very aggressive style and they're able to they have to be very, very strong also. And they're funneling to a game that maybe I'm not super sharp against or whatnot. Sometimes I have a little bit of difficulty. Master Rolls is a good example too. Like the guy was very sharp, very strong, well balanced, and was able to actually pass my guard, which that was in gi, but that's only happened a handful of times. I think in no gi I've gotten my guard passed like 2 times in the last 2 or 3 years. JT Torres is the main guy I'm thinking of.
No.
I don't have a fully formulated plan for exactly how to deal with them, but some of it's going to be like a little bit more primed for not only like me getting to what I want, which is a big core aspect of like my preparation, but also being ready to weather the storm in case it happens. And this was against a guy I've never gone against. So there's a little bit of maybe preparing for more unexpected. That's one takeaway. I think there's also a little bit of, I kind of narrow the aperture into like what I'm, trying to accomplish, but maybe opening the aperture a little bit more in competition of like doing more passing, more takedowns, these kinds of things, and getting a little bit more experience in a little bit more of a holistic game plan. Probably could help me out a little bit, but all in all, like for the most part, it sucks to lose, and there's some things certainly to try to dial in a little bit, but in large part, it's just, keep after it. I do think that I want to try to explore more diversity with my competition strategy, just to make sure I'm getting the right exposure. So when I need it, because someone is really good at either blocking out what I'm trying to accomplish, or they're very good at a component that like locks that out for whatever reason, that it's a lot more familiar. So I think that's, I mean, it's kind of bleeding into what I think the next question is, like, what are some adjustments you're making to your training? But that's probably one of those key takeaways. I think it's completely separate from the actual outcome. It's just nice to go to these big tournaments and see a lot of people that we know. And we're coaching Dave Meyer, and he was able to get his Master 7 black belt medium heavy world championship. So that was really cool to see him execute.
Just a quick shout out. David Meyer is one of the original BJJ Dirty Dozen, and he runs his own awesome podcast, The Ageless Warrior Lab. So go check it out. And he's just an absolute legend. And it's always really cool to get to, be on his team and coach him and see him still out there in his 60s, just going to battle. You're really,
it's really cool.
It's definitely the like, oh, that I could still be out there too one day,
and
going to battle with the young folk here in the gym.
He trains
awesome.
all the time with the adults and loves masters and like, ones and twos and stuff. And he always jokes, he's like, oh, like I'll take away their heart medication, or I'll kick their walker out from underneath them. I start getting to the mat. But it's, he downplays it and whatnot, but it's wildly impressive that you're still competing at that age. And a lot of the folks that don't have that many miles. It's like they started jiu-jitsu much later, and maybe they started in their 50s or late 40s. And so they've been doing it for a dozen years or whatnot, but like he's been doing it for eternity. Like he was there when it started, with the Machado brothers and the Gracies, like coming, and he was even training in jiu-jitsu, like Japanese jiu-jitsu before that. And so it's not only is it really inspiring to see someone at his age going out there and doing well, but that he's been doing it all these years and stuff. And so it was cool. It was really cool to see a lot of friends that I don't get to see that often. I think one other really cool takeaway is I posted on a story, after I had lost, I was like hanging out in the hot tub, and like just a little reflection around like working through the disappointment and the frustration and stuff, but like that this one event does not dictate my self-worth, and that it's collecting data. And what was really cool is the outreach of people that were very supportive and very nice, and like saying like, you're still our champion and whatnot. And people at the tournament who I don't really interact with on any regular basis were like, oh, like I feel you, like that's a great attitude. Like they're just also very like supportive too, and it's nice. It's a good reminder that like, like some of these people are my competitors, but I was like talking with one of my like competitors a long time after, as I was waiting for my like award for the year or whatever. And it's just like, we're all just people doing the thing, and like
we're all just doing the silly ground karate thing.
And it's nice to make some connections. And of course we want to win, but it's the journey that's really like what is the value in this. And of course, like winning is great, but and losing sucks, but it's about progress and testing yourself and doing hard things.
Indeed.
That was my long-winded answer. What are your main
Nice.
takeaways?
My main takeaways, it's interesting that you bring up, and we don't have a ton of perspective on this. We're just kind of like observers of David competing in the Master 6, Master 7, Master 7, the last one you can, register for division, where that challenge might be you're facing someone who's a newer black belt, but they have fewer miles on their body and, all that. I think kind of on the opposite end, like when we're competing, sometimes we're facing a black belt who's been black belt for, almost as long as we've been training. At these tournaments, especially at the Worlds for gi or no gi or whatever for Masters, you might have someone come out of the woodwork that you haven't seen in a long time, and they're just very sharp and very experienced. And that was, it's frustrating to be like, oh, well, I'm tough and experienced too, but like, hey man, they were sharper that day. And that sucks. And it's just like, that's kind of what happened. And it was cool where, the woman that I fought, I was like, I think I know her. I'm pretty sure I trained with her like a long time ago. And it's someone where I think I trained with them literally over a decade ago, And so that's really cool, and that's what's nice is we're all out here still doing it. But other takeaways, I think in the similar vein, on one hand, I don't want to over-index on this one match. And, I was reflecting on some of my training leading up, and I wasn't doing as many rounds where I or my opponent were really pushing the pace. I wasn't doing a lot of fast-paced rounds. And so I think saying, hey, I need to make sure that those are happening at least sometimes in my training as kind of exposure therapy, so that when it's happening, I'm still focused and clear on where I need to go and what I need to do next. So I think that's one takeaway. There's definitely I'm noticing that even if people don't tap me with a toe hold, a lot of people are going for it. And this was not even from where a lot of people have started to try to attack it from when I'm playing K-guard, but making sure that my trail leg is safe. There's definitely some technical things that I can tighten up. So that'll be like, working with you and, working with a few other folks to see what I can do to keep my feet a little more hidden. I think very similarly, just that we have a women's black sheep chat, and they were like, oh, go Lauren, go kill it out there. And after I lost, I posted and just said, I lost, it sucks. Like, but, I'm physically all good and like, on to the next thing kind of thing. And it was really nice to receive so many like nice supportive messages, I think there's a layer where coming up and competing, I used to dread having to have the same conversation over and over again of like, if all these people know I'm competing and all of them ask like how it went over and over again throughout the day and being like, yep, I lost. Like that sucks. And so this was an interesting kind of flip to that of instead of me having to have that conversation, I just had some people that I respect and appreciate sending me encouraging messages, and same idea of just like, dude, you're awesome. They're like, don't worry about it. We still like you and everything. And so that I think it's interesting seeing that flip and like, hey, my community is, supporting me and lifting me up,
Yeah. I think it's good to remember that like people aren't going, like at least people that you value, they're gonna love you or have the same feelings towards you, whether you do well or not. Maybe they'll be extra stoked if you win, but like they're still gonna be like, you're doing something hard. And this is something that I preach to a lot of people, especially if like their first worlds or whatever. It's like you're doing something difficult. You're doing a hard thing that most other people aren't showing up for. And it's admirable, and they should be proud that they got there, they made weight, maybe they even won a match, but like they're there. You know, it's not easy being a competitor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to not do it.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're just kind of like crazy or whatnot, like it's an ordeal to overcome all the things that need to happen to be able to compete, especially at a very high level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, just trying to find ways to this time of year, I think for many people is really stressful. And I think for both of us, we had kind of the like a brief onslaught of just a lot of stuff going on. You know, like stuff with work, stuff with family, whatever. And so in future Nogi world saying, hey, like 3 weeks out, what can we do in advance of coming here to try to like make that stress a little bit less? You know, is there stuff that I can do at work that I can be so on top of that I'm not going to have to, you know, be 3 days out and like, oh my God, you know?
There's a couple of self-inflicted wounds, not like bad or anything else like that, but like, my like business I'm working on, you know, I feel a lot of self-pressure to make progress in there. And there's like, you know, some stuff with the consulting gig and like our, you know, podcasts and other content. And I think I did a good job the week of just like, you know, letting things fall off to the side, but even so, it's like a little bit challenging. And I think I wanted to start my training camp a little bit earlier. I had a couple things get in the way, and was prepare a little bit better. Are you planning on making any adjustments to your training? And if so, what adjustments?
I think, like I said, one of the big adjustments I'm going to make is to try to have at least one round with someone who's close-ish to my size and, you know, youngish, where I'm like, hey, like, let's go. Like, let's push the pace. Let's have a lot of movement. And let's try to not get too hunkered down in any one position, both for less so for cardio and more for just that, just being super used to it. Because I am planning on participating in another EBI submission only round of qualifying matches, and they'll be against, you know, adults and leg lockers and stuff. And so the other adjustment is to potentially either through positionals or just through communication, like just asking people that I know that are good at leg attacks to be using them a lot and be putting me in them. I think doing positionals with people where I'm like, hey, they're already getting pretty close, you know, or they're in 411 or something, you know, I might review the tape and kind of see like, you know, where did my legs get really I remember there was a moment where I was very entangled and like, oh no, this is not good, you know? And so just getting more experience in those and having some more concentrated drilling of escapes potentially, so that I have some specific methods of escaping and coming up in a good position. I think the other element potentially too is continuing to reach out to my connections in the Bay Area that are, you know, especially as a small female, like you have to really learn how to create community where you can go out and get good training with other women. Especially as you rise in the ranks. It's like at my gym, there's like one woman who can really push me. You know, some that are coming up, but they're like not quite there yet.
Especially in the like leg entanglement space.
Yeah, exactly. And so making those connections and then making that training happen on a semi-regular basis, even if it's once a week or every other week, just continuing to really make sure that that's happening, I think is huge and really beneficial. And so there's a few people that I'm excited to go train with, Arvin and Krissa from Scrap Pack being one couple, maybe trying to get out to 10th Planet Oakland, seeing what's going on over there. And yeah, just making sure that that's built into the schedule and that I'm making it happen. Are you planning on making adjustments to your training? And if so, what adjustments?
Yeah, I think the fairly brief answer is a little bit more top like passing, which I have been doing a decent amount, but like having a little bit more, not urgency there, but like be there a little bit more frequently, especially when I'm tired. I think sometimes I'll start there and I get tired, then I'll go to the guard because I can manage my energy and like slow people down a little bit easier. Working some takedowns a little bit more, or dealing with people that are pulling, just have a little bit more of a holistic approach, which I do, but I be a little bit more purposeful with it, and build as well developed blueprints as I do have in my guard. And that's starting to coalesce, but it probably needs a little bit more work. I think also just being like on top for my knee as I like work through PTing and assessing how sketchy it is, will be good. And then I think there's also maybe not the exact same of what you're talking about, but finding something similar of finding people that are willing to like bring the heat. Especially ideally with like leg locks leading up to this. I had a few rounds with, so there's some young guys in our gym that come in, and they have a lot of energy. I remember I did a double day and I hadn't been training. It was my first double day that I can remember. And the evening one was against one of the young kids. And it was 10-minute rounds. It was not like a regular class. It wasn't like the 5 minutes that our master twos are. And this guy, like from tape to tape, was bringing it, like he was revving, felt like redlining. And so I think I probably need a little bit more of those types of things. One other thing I want to do is like, I tend to allow people a little bit too nicely to get into leg attacks because I'm working on escaping late stage. I think I'm going to, I'll still do that some of the time, but I think I'm going to also train like red alert, don't let them past, anything, just really shutting down any entries a good portion of the time and defaulting to defense. And so what I actually am probably going to do is like, if and when there are leg entanglements, whether, they're initiating or not, or whatever, is I'm not going to be fighting the submissions as much. I'm going to be working on defense and preventative measures. I think I have been a little bit too lackadaisical with, not saying, hey, I want him to enter the leg so that I can get out of it. Because I think that the people that I'm going to go against that are really good there, like I need to be right away reacting and shutting it down. And so I think that I'll need to unwind that like slightly bad habit. And so that's going to be something I'm going to focus on as well.
I feel like for you, it sounds like too a similar thing of making sure that you are having diversity in challenging rounds, you know? And so sometimes that involves, going out into the world and seeking that out and, using those connections.
And there's a lot of tough, really tough people at Black Sheep. Like there's a lot of really tough rounds, and it's just, I think, getting the mat time. It's been like a perennial thing is really building the strength and conditioning, especially on the conditioning part, to be able to put output, and be able to meet people in the moment wherever they're at, and it's certainly a lot better than it has been in the past, but it's something that it can still be improved on, of course. And I think that'll be good to explore a little bit.
Nice.
Any unexpected positives from the trip?
We found a new coffee spot. Yeah. That was pretty good. It's very expensive, but
it's very expensive.
It's Vegas.
It's Vegas.
Yeah, so that was pretty sweet.
It was pretty good. I don't know. It wasn't that great. It's pretty good. It's a good backup.
Yeah.
Not unexpected because we knew about it, but Broken Cream oat milk latte at Cheongdam food court. I don't know that whatever it is, that
place is bomb. Yeah. Cheongdam food court in Vegas. Highly recommend. That was awesome.
The foods are pretty good, but the
the coffee's good.
Iced broken cream. So
Mm-hmm.
good.
So good. Seeing people at the tournament is maybe not unexpected, but like it's always like
It's nice.
very pleasant. Yeah. Yep.
I think some of the matches, some of the outcomes from the matches was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like some really like incredible performances. Elizabeth Clay.
Yeah.
Just so impressive with submitting. Miss Pisano.
8 fights, 8 submissions
It's
is
so-
pretty
it's so-
insane
yeah,
at
it's so
the
wild.
adult
I remember seeing
championships.
the clip in the finals of the middleweight or whatever.
Yeah.
And like she's like fully passed and she just like grabs her foot and stuffs it in front of the leg in like a lasso-ish thing, but she's like the other chick is fully past her.
Like
and I'm
fully north-south. Yeah, exactly.
Fully north-side. She just like inserts her leg and just hangs out there and there's like, bloop, she's out. I was like, holy moly, that flexibility, that mobility
that
is just
gymnastics background.
so incredible.
Yeah.
But like just really, really cool to see that.
One thing that I've been reflecting on lately is like Liz Clay is a newish mom, you know, and how cool it is to see. When I was coming up in my early 20s, you didn't see anyone like parenting and competing who was a mom.
Like 18 months
Yeah.
old or something like that. And she double golded at Nogi Pans last year.
Yep.
Like
her kid was like a month or two old or something. Yeah.
So wild.
Yeah.
It's like a testament to like resiliency, but also like I'm assuming, like I don't know, but I know Kashin and a lot of the other folks at Aries down and like they're very purposeful and like probably she has a really good strength and conditioning coach as well that like really set her up for success and didn't just like sit on their laurels. You know, it's a little early, but you know, they obviously know what they're doing or seem like they know what they're doing. And it's really cool to be able to see a woman be able to have a child, but also still excel at the highest levels. Because it's not just this and Nogi Pans, but she's also been doing super fights and just doing really well. So,
and she's not the only one. Like I remember like Karen Antunes having her baby and coming back. She was doing Master 1 more so, but like absolutely dominating.
Still really cool.
And outside of jiu-jitsu, Tia Claire of CrossFit, you know, like watching her lifts while she was super pregnant is just one of the most impressive things that like, I remember when I was pregnant and my OBGYN was like, don't lift more than 20 pounds. Basically don't lift at all. And I was like, that just doesn't seem right for me. I'm coming off of being a Pan Am silver medalist, a blue belt adult. I was in some of the strongest like shape I've ever been in. Even stronger now. But I think it's really important that so many people are getting to see what could be, you know, for themselves and for other you know, women and families and everything. And so that's really cool. I think we're talking a little bit too about how the competing like this it's still stressful and there's a lot of emotions, especially when it doesn't go your way, but it's still kind of a brief break from reality, you know? And I think getting to have that moment to just focus on yourselves, to rest in a weird way, like where you're like, hey, we're just going to the hot tub and we're sleeping as much as we can and really trying to set ourselves up physically for success, it's really nice to have that time. It can definitely, you know, there's this slippery slope into like, hey, you still gotta like pay your bills and take care of your family and stuff. So don't go like too far down like that side.
I think occasionally it is nice to like give yourself permission. Like I said, I maybe even in the part 1 or whatnot of like one reason why I do like competing, even with all the other stuff that's challenging with it is like it's one of the few times, if not the only time, I really say like, not only do I give myself permission, but I demand that I like push everything else out within reason. Like if it needs to happen, But like anything that's not immediately needed, like that is on the back burner, at least until tomorrow or whatever it is. And so it is a nice reprieve in some levels, and you're doing something very difficult and whatnot, but it is nice to have like a self-interested in a different capacity activity to be doing.
Any final thoughts?
I think competing is challenging. Competing at the highest level is challenging. We always want to have good outcomes, but I'm still proud of us for going out there and doing what we do. I'm, proud of this season. It's quite incredible. I only lost in majors. At least in Nogi. Had pretty strong success in super fights. Went 4-0, 3 belts. And then I got the number 2 on the year award for I've judged a Nogi master overall ranking. And so it's like a great season, great year. Be doing a lot of reflecting on like, what do I want next year to look like? I have some ideas, but nothing's set in stone. But this is, it's a good thing to test yourself even when the challenging moments happen, and it's a good opportunity to learn and also just, keep the journey going.
I'll say for my final thoughts, sometimes I have to put it into perspective that even though I've been training a long time, this is my first year at black belt. And it's really cool to see my Nogi game coming together. Oh, pet the baby, and then I'll get back to my thoughts.
Okay.
Floof a tail. Yeah.
Come here, baby.
Here, come here.
Come here, baby. Baby's coming to join for the final thought.
First year at black belt, we were talking about this the other night where there's so many things that I want to be working on and improving, and strategies and techniques that I'm trying to dive into and learn. And it's incredible to me that after almost 15 years of training, that's still true,
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're having exciting, I'm gonna give you the kisses. I've heard a few people being like, oh, I think I'm ready for a break from competing, this and that. And it kind of played, I was like, should I be wanting a break? Like, we've been doing a lot, and it's really cool to be having really exciting matches at black belt, and to be saying, hey, now I've learned enough jiu-jitsu where it's easier for me to learn some other new things now, that before I just couldn't quite figure out or wrap my head around or like physically do or whatever. And so, it's exciting to just have the journey continue. And, of course, give space for the fact that like losing sucks. And, that I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I could have won it, maybe me. But it's also like, dude, there's a lot of really tough opponents out there. And like, it's not always going to be your day, 50% or so of the people that show up go home empty-handed, and that's just how it is. And they all are like, I'm gonna win. They all should be thinking like, hey, I have a strong chance of winning. So
with
the baby,
go out, compete, test yourself.
Yes.
Have fun.
If you need some good luck, you can borrow some dog hair.
Have some dog hair.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, he's so cute.
Thank you for joining us for one more Jiu Jitsu Ponderings. Oh
yes.
my goodness. Okay.
Oh, your baby.